Hello everyone and welcome into the FedEx Preview Show. I'm Jonathan Merryman, joined by Marty Snider of NBC Sports. Man, oh man, Brad Keselowski, he dominated the day in Martinsville.
Impressive.
Marty, before we break that down, let's go see what Brad said after he kicked everybody's tails at the paperclip.
Chase, I think, was just a little bit faster than us all race long, at least on the short run. And, you know, it came down to it, not a super short run, but kind of a, you know, I would say a half a run at the best at the end. And I knew I had to be a little bit better to beat him. He was certainly faster on that short run. And when he passed me, I learned just enough. And the pit crew got me back in front of him on the next to last pit stop. And I was able to kind of apply the lessons.
Marty, we've both seen enough races at Martinsville to know that, you know, you don't have a car like that every single time you go. Where does this stack up in all-time Martinsville performances for Brad?
It's one of the better ones, I have to say. But we talked last week on the show about sometimes when you hit a setup at Martinsville, you can hold on to it. Well, clearly Brad Keselowski, Team Penske, has done that. You go back to last fall, I really feel like Brad had the best car in that race, but kind of let his teammate Joey Logano and Martin Truex Jr. battle it out for the win. But Brad, very impressive. And to lead all those laps, so impressive. But the most impressive thing to me about the day for the two teams, how they performed on pit road. They won every race off pit road. Think about that for a second. 6 times they came down pit road. They left with the lead every time. So it really is a team effort. You can't just say it was Brad. It wasn't just Paul Wolfe. It was the entire team that got it done. And those are a little more satisfying wins. When you know the car's good, the driver does his job, crew chief does his job, but the pit crew, they come through as well.
Solid team performance, Marty, where you have to be hitting on 8 cylinders as well as Texas. A new surface. I don't think the guys have quite figured it out yet, especially with this new aero package we have going there. But having said that, is it Kyle Busch and Penske versus the field this weekend?
Well, it seems like it's really Team Penske versus Joe Gibbs Racing. I think Denny Hamlin's gotten a little bit better. I think Eric Jones will be very good this weekend. Look out for him. He's a great dark horse pick. But, yeah, I think Kyle Busch is the guy to beat this weekend. They've just been so good at these mile-and-a-halfs. They clearly have something figured out with this package. And when it comes to these type of racetracks, I think Kyle is just so good, and obviously won the race at Texas last year. But I think it's just a type of scenario where it has come down to those two organizations. I really haven't seen an organization challenge either of those organizations. And you would think Stewart Haas would be more in the mix, but they're just a step behind right now. They've got some things to figure out. So, yeah, I think it's going to come down to Team Penske, Joe Gibbs Racing, and I think there are some sneaky picks within that. Ryan Blaney among them, but I think Eric Jones is going to be another guy.
Well, let's talk about Ryan Blaney. The past 3 races, he's knocked off top 5s. He was a very good teammate for a couple of those guys at Martinsville. When's he due? He's good at Texas. He's got a pole there.
Yeah.
So
well, he's due now.
Yeah.
He needs to win now. I think the team's feeling a little bit of that pressure. But Texas is a place where I think they can certainly get it done. Talking to Jeremy Bullins, talking to Ryan, they feel like this is their type of racetrack. High grip, high speed. They've always been good at these kinds of racetracks. And you go back to the very first race after the repave at Texas, who won the first stage? Ryan Blaney. Likes to lead laps here, runs up front, runs well at this racetrack. So I think Ryan Blaney is going to be in the consideration set for one of the guys to beat this weekend.
All right, let's jump back to Stewart Haas Racing. A couple of their drivers a little testy with each other on the radio at Martinsville, but more important to them, you know, you said they were a tick behind. All of them in the top 10 at Martinsville, definitely a good sign, but what's going on within those 4 walls to make sure that they can go compete with those other 2 organizations?
Well, I think it's just figuring out what they need to do during the races, what they need to do during practice to be able to translate practice speed to race speed. It seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect there for Stewart Haas on some level, and I'm not quite sure what it is. Talking to Rodney Childress a few weeks ago, he said the adjustments we're making in race need to be bigger, and I think they're going to see that come to effect this weekend. But this is a real measuring stick for Stewart Haas. We know how well they've run at Texas in the past. Kevin Harvick is a past Texas winner. We know he knows how to run at this racetrack. So this is going to be a good measuring stick for Stewart Haas if they're going to catch up to Team Penske and Joe Gibbs Racing. We'll see a little bit of that this weekend. I know they're bringing some new stuff to Texas this weekend. And one thing to keep in mind, when you look at the West Coast swing, it's really hard to incorporate changes into your race car. So that was a few weeks ago. Now you've had time to incorporate changes into your car. We'll see if the field levels up a little bit and if Stewart Haas can catch Team Penske and Joe Gibbs Racing. But this weekend's going to be a big weekend for Stewart Haas.
All right, Team Chevy needing to catch up as well.
Yeah.
Hendrick getting a lot of a bad rep, so to speak, but none of the Chevys are really running that well from Ganassi to RCR to Hendrick Motorsports. what are they going to have to do? When is that light switch going to have to click for those guys?
Now, and I'm telling you, I don't know what's going on at Team Chevy with the entire camp, but they are just missing something. And I don't know who could really win this weekend. I think Chase Elliott, maybe. Kurt Busch, maybe. Kyle Larson's kind of below that group. And then beyond that, I'm not really sure who could win in a Chevrolet this weekend. It's just the entire camp seems to be a little bit behind, and they're even further behind than the Stewart Haas car. So I think there's a lot of work to do at Chevy, and in general at Chevrolet, but certainly at Hendrick Motorsports. I think they're behind and not nearly where they thought they would be. Chase Elliott kind of carrying the banner, but I'm not sure that Chase can win this weekend either. So, you know, I know going into the race last fall at Texas, they felt like they were a little bit behind those guys, and now they're even a little bit more behind. So I think they've got some work to do, no doubt about it.
All right, NASCAR Fantasy Live pick. Who's the one driver you can't live without in your lineup?
Wow. I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney this weekend. I think this is the weekend Blaney gets it done. I think Team Penske is going to be very strong, so I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney this weekend. Loves this type of track. As we mentioned, I think they're due as well. I think he's also starting to feel the pressure a little bit too, so I think he comes through this weekend.
All right, I was going to take Ryan Blaney, but since I have so many spots in my lineup, he will be in there. I'll also take Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch has been fast. He seems to be the only other guy that can run up there with those Penske cars, so I think Kyle Busch could get it done this weekend. And where you can see if we are right, it is the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500. That is this Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Marty, we appreciate you. We appreciate you watching. Tune in next week as we head to Bristol.